carnivores, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Bella the Steak and Butter Gal. I hope you all are having an amazing Meat Fueled day, and as always, I would love to know how you're doing. How is carnivore going for you? Any victories, updates, struggles you'd like to share with me? Feel free to comment it down below. So I shared this article on Instagram the other day, just talking about how meat prices are really going up. A lot of the people who commented agreed that they are also seeing meat prices go up. It also said that this year, 2024, may be the year where meat prices reach an all-time high. So this leads me to my very first money-saving hack, and that is always bulk buy and stock up on any meat deals you come across. Really keep an eye out at your local grocery stores and go-to places that you get meat. Anytime you see your favorite meats go on sale, I recommend stocking up and buying as much as you can and storing all of that amazing meat in the freezer. Meat that is properly sealed can last for up to 1 year in the freezer. So if you want to invest in a vacuum sealer and vacuum seal all of the meat as well, that will also help your meat stay fresh in the freezer for longer. Now, to help you all find the best meat deals and discounts near you, I highly recommend downloading the app called Flip, and I will show you what it looks like. This is what it looks like. It's called Flip, F-L-I-P-P. You can filter exactly what discounts you want this app to tell you about. Butter, eggs, milk, cheese, chicken, steak, salmon, shrimp. It is amazing. So they really make it easy to just filter out all of the best carnivore ingredients and cuts of meat that any carnivore would want to save money on. You just let the app notify you whenever there are discounts. It'll tell you exactly where, which grocery store, and what deals. I highly recommend stocking up, especially since meat prices are really going up now. This next hack is for those who love their steak. You can save a lot of money if you go to Costco or Sam's Club and you get their whole rib roasts. This is basically the entire slab of ribeye, and I'll put photos on the screen so you know what it looks like, where the butcher does not slice it up for you. When you buy that whole slab, you actually get a really good discount. You just take that primal home, slice it up yourself, and vacuum seal it, store it in your freezer if you want it to last a long time. That's really the best way to save as much money as possible on steaks. Each pound of those sliced ribeyes or whatever steak roast you're getting is going to be a lot cheaper than if you were to buy it pre-sliced for you. I've found some amazing meals that are cheap, easy to cook, and deliver just as much deliciousness as a perfect steak. And of course, I will link all the recipes if you want to learn how to make them down below in the description box. First one, ground beef and eggs. A lot of people complain to me about ground beef because it is always dry, not juicy enough, and it doesn't taste good. That's because you're not cooking it in the best way possible. I've experimented with cooking ground beef many times, and I have definitely made the mistake of overcooking it, cooking at too high of a temperature where it is dry and nasty, doesn't have that juicy, tender mouthfeel that I crave for in ground beef meals. You need to cook your ground beef on low medium heat. Let it cook low and slow so that it simmers in its own delicious juicy golden fat. Once you cook it low and slow, and it does require a little bit more patience, okay, and some more time, it is so worth it. It delivers that juiciness. I feel so nourished with every bite of juicy, tender, fatty meat. I mentioned this in my cheap grocery list video, which I'll link down below. Snake River Farms, I personally have found after 5 years of eating carnivore, is the absolute best brand of ground beef for those who prioritize that juicy, tender ground beef mouthfeel and flavor. Now, for the egg portion of the meal, you really want to save up that ground beef rendered fat. Save all of that delicious golden melted fat from the ground beef and use that as the cooking oil to fluff up the scrambled eggs. If you've been watching my videos, you know that I always mention if you're new to the carnivore diet and you are having loose stools or indigestion or even diarrhea, it could be a sign that you're just eating a little bit too much fat than your body can handle. But for some reason, when I cook up these fluffy scrambled eggs in the liquid fat and I just let it rest, let it come to room temperature, it is easier on the digestion. With the scrambled eggs, I would cook it low and slow. I would not cook it on high heat. Low to medium, even better, just consistent low heat until you've reached the texture and doneness that you prefer. Now, the second meal that I have been loving is flanken short ribs. I always see flanken short ribs on sale, especially with this Flip app. This cut of meat frequently goes on sale at your local chain grocery store markets. I've seen it as cheap as $5.99 per pound. So definitely download that Flip app. I think that might be the best hack. Not everybody is going to love this meal, but Every time I share about this meal, I always get DMs, emails, comments saying, oh my gosh, this meal changed my life. I just lay it out on my baking sheet, line it with parchment paper, and I bake it at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 40 to 45 minutes. If you love flank short ribs and you have different techniques or ways to go about cooking it beautifully, feel free to share it down below in the comment section. I would absolutely love to try different ways to cook my favorite cut of meat. Okay, this next hack is how to score quality fat for free. And that is getting beef fat trimmings that butcher shops are going to throw away. I would go on Google, I would search local butcher shops near me, and I would go through all of the butcher shops that pop up, call them, and ask, hey, do you happen to have any beef fat trimmings that I can have for free? Or just say, hey, do you sell beef fat trimmings by any chance at your butcher shop? And they most likely will be like, yeah, absolutely. How many pounds would you like? And if you call enough locations, you might actually be able to find a place that just gives it to you for free. If you're new to carnivore and you're wondering what the heck is beef fat trimmings, just think of a big fatty marbled ribeye. There are always those big chunks of pure fat. You're essentially just buying or getting for free a whole bag of that. I would take it home and do the following to it. Cut it up into chunks if it's not already, and air fry that into delicious, crispy beef fat snacks. And if you're bold enough and you crave fat enough, you might actually enjoy eating that beef fat trimming right there and then, raw. It has this very waxy texture, but I personally love the flavor of beef fat trimmings. Totally get it if you think it is absolutely disgusting, but I would love to know if you've ever tried raw beef fat trimmings before, and what did you think of the flavor? And there's actually a third thing that you can really use this beef fat trimming for, and that is just to use it as a cooking oil. You'll notice that when you take these chunks of solid beef fat and you put it on your pan and let it melt, it becomes cooking oil. You can use it to cook up your eggs. You can use it to sear whatever meats that you want to sear. I even know a lot of carnivores who take all this cheap beef fat trimmings to make tallow, or tallow skincare, tallow cream, tallow face cream. I'll be sure to link the best tutorials and recipes on how to make tallow out of raw beef fat down below in the description box. This next and last money-saving hack is something that I recently learned under the Instagram post where I talked about meat prices going up. And that is to buy a whole cow or a half cow, if you don't want the whole cow, from a local rancher or farmer near you. And then second, to invest in a meat freezer. So it's one of those deep meat freezer chests that you can buy on its own. Put all of that amazing beef in that meat freezer. People were saying, look, I'm not worried about these meat prices going up at grocery stores. I buy a whole cow from my rancher who I have a good relationship with, and they've locked in the same price for years. So that way you can rest assured that the meat that you're eating will never go up in price. Now, for those who are wondering, where exactly do I find a rancher to be friends with to get that locked in rate, to get that whole cow? Go to eatwild.com. This is an excellent website to find local farms, ranches, and co-ops near you. So this website is going to be amazing for anyone who is ready to build a relationship with their local ranchers, because it will show you all of the local farmers and ranchers near you. It also shows you local raw dairy sources and products near you as well. So I'll make sure to link this amazing website down below in the description box. Now let's move on to the time-saving and easy cleanup hacks that I've learned along the way. If you hate all of that grease splatter, meat grease, meat smoke, meat aromas in your house or tiny apartment that you live in, which is how I started carnivore, then I highly recommend you get an air fryer, because it is just this tiny little compact box that you can cook all of your carnivore meals in, and also such easy cleanup. The air fryer that I personally invested in is a very high quality, not cheap air fryer at all by any means, but is it worth every single penny? Yes, because I've had this air fryer for years and years and years now, and it still works like a charm. It's still as effective as day one. It is from Cuisinart. I actually have tried both of their sizes, the compact Cuisinart air fryer and their large sized air fryer. The compact size is for anyone who would like to cook up to 2 pounds of meat. Now, the larger size is best for those who like to cook up to 4 pounds of meat. I frequently get asked the question, how do you keep your house from smelling like meat 24/7? My first hack to couple up with using air fryers is to put your air fryer outside. So if you have a deck, a backyard, anywhere that you can plug in this air fryer outside, You will never ever have to worry about meat smells, smoke, grease in your house ever again. Now, to make my cleanup process even easier, I use parchment paper every time I cook in my air fryer. I'll put photos and footage of what parchment paper is if you're new to it. I basically rip off a piece of the parchment paper roll. I line that tray with parchment paper, and then I put my meats onto that parchment paper. That way I never get any grease or meat residue on the actual tray. When you cook meat on the tray, there's always going to be residue, grease that collects up. If you don't wash that grease and residue off every single time you cook with that air fryer tray, the meat smells, grease, and smoke will just get exponentially stronger every time you use that tray to cook with. That's why I always line my air fryer tray with parchment paper, just to make sure that tray never collects meat residue and grease when it doesn't have to. My next hack is to get yourself a grease splatter screen. I'll put a photo up. I'll link everything that I've mentioned down below, of course, but this is an excellent carnivore staple because if you do cook stovetop, making quick scrambled eggs or cooking up some pork belly on your stove or bacon even, that amount of grease splatter will be contained exponentially when you just throw a grease splatter screen over your pans. They're dishwasher safe, and you can of course get it in different sizes. I have a bunch just laying around in my kitchen because if I'm cooking like 2 pans of meat and then eggs in the other, I just put those screens over both so that the splatter does not get all over the place. This third thing that I purposely do every day for easy cleanup and also to save time is oven recipes. There's something about oven carnivore meaty recipes that are so idiot proof, but also so time saving. You do not have to stand around keeping an eye on your food. You literally just pop whatever meat you want in the oven, forget about it, and it turns off on its own, and it's ready for you to eat whenever you're ready to eat it. This is one of my favorite hacks and things that I intentionally do, especially on days that I'm busy or lazy or I just don't want to stand around in the kitchen. If you have an oven, most likely you will have an oven that has an automatic turn off setting. I get my baking sheets filled with meat. Of course, again, align it with parchment paper for the easiest cleanup ever. I put all of my favorite meats on it, like my flinken short ribs, like my party chicken wings, fresh sliced pork belly, and I pop those 2 trays. You can even do 3 trays, batch cook if you want. Put it in the oven and I cook it all at once. Now, before I cook it, there is a setting on my oven where I can set the timer and make sure that once the timer is done, the oven automatically shuts off. You can, of course, also do this with Instant Pots, which is another time-saving, easy cleanup gadget that I recommend for anyone who loves broths, soups, stews. You just set the Instant Pot to however long you want to pressure cook, it turns off, and your food is ready to go. So air fryer, oven recipes, Instant Pots, line stuff with parchment paper. These are my absolute best time-saving and easy cleanup type of hacks. Now I'm going to wrap up the video with some honorable mentions. These are simple tips and tricks that will literally level up your carnivore meals, make it more exciting, more delicious. The first one is smoked salt. If you love your meaty meals with lots of salt, and by the way, I personally do not eat salt, but I have a lot of this at home because my fiance, steak and butter guy, loves his salty meals. So again, this is very much personal preference. I know a lot of carnivores now who do not eat any salt at all. Dr. Anthony Chafee is now completely off salt. My coach Raymond Nazon does not eat any salt either. So of course, there are going to be carnivores who don't need any salt like me. But if you currently are at a stage where you need the salt, you love the salt, you crave for the salt, get yourself some smoked, flaked salt. I learned this from a member in the Steak and Butter gang. I remember it was like a meeting. We were talking about easy ways to level up your carnivore meals in that meeting. And somebody said, just get yourself some smoked, flaked salt. I heard it. I got it for Steak and Butter guy, and he was truly mind blown. I'll link it down below in the description box if you guys want to check it out. And speaking of salt, I know a lot of you guys are new to carnivore, and I wanted to share that if you're experiencing symptoms like headaches, lower energy, fatigue, muscle cramping, these are all symptoms that are part of the adaptation phase. It could be really helpful to lean on a high quality electrolyte supplement for the time being. The one that I recommend is from this brand, Element. It is spelled LMNT, the raw unflavored one. It has no stevia, has no no flavorings or any ingredients other than the 3 electrolytes. They're super small, travel friendly. You just rip one open, put it in whatever beverage you're drinking, mix it up, drink it down, and you're good to go. You all can get a free sample pack with any purchase, which does include the raw unflavored one, by going to the URL shown on the screen, drinklmnt.com/SBGAL, also linked down below. So I mentioned the smoked salt hack. Another hack that I can't not mention, because I have been using it a lot to level up my meals, is a raw yolk dipping sauce. And it really is just that, just raw yolk. Mix it up so it's nice and beat up, and use it as a dipping sauce. I shared this a couple days ago on my Instagram, and I even made a post about it, yeah, and I also shared it in my stories. And I had like a 50-50 split of reactions to it. Half of the comments and reactions were like, I already do this, it's so delicious. And then the other half were literally appalled. They could not believe that a raw yolk could be delicious or appetizing in any way. So then I realized, okay, this is actually probably an Asian thing, because I grew up doing this, and I went to Japanese restaurants where they would literally serve you a bowl of raw yolk to dip your meats in. Once I realized that, it made a lot more sense that mostly people here in America, they are not going to think it's appetizing at all. It's probably disgusting. If you love it too, let me know down below in the comments. Those are all of the hacks that I wanted to share. I'm sure that I will continue learning and collecting more and more hacks the longer I live this carnivore lifestyle. I mentioned a couple times in this video that I actually learned a lot of these hacks from members in my community, the Steak and Butter Gang, from my team, from coaches, from meetings that I do. And I just wanted to share that if you're new to carnivore, or if you're experienced, you're a long-term carnivore, and you want a community to connect with, converse with, learn from, be inspired from, I welcome you all to join the Steak and Butter Gang. It is completely off social media. It's like a safe haven. You don't get random trolls. All you get is amazing carnivore posts, advice, recipes, and a whole community of passionate meat eaters just like you who are ready to support you and keep you accountable. For this upcoming month, I will be bringing on Dr. Elizabeth Bright, Professor Thomas Seyfried, the cancer expert. Very excited about that one. Dr. Tony Hampton, Dr. Robert Kiltz, and Coach Rebecca Heischman. So it's a great place to connect with like-minded carnivores, and of course to get guidance and inspiration from carnivore experts. You can check out the community at the link shown on the screen, sbgmeetup.com, or you can click the links down below in the description box. Thank you again, and I wish you all an amazing rest of your day. I'll see you in my next video. SBG out. Thank you.